Hi, I'm John Kettlehut, and this is Blue Lotus Organic Red Wine video number 3, and this is part of my proving that Blue Lotus is a preservative that the Egyptians 3,000 years ago, and possibly further from my research, it goes up into Georgia and Russia, the Tartarians that were between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea, 8,000 BC. So it's been around for a while, and I believe I found out what the preservative is. It's the Blue Lotus, and what it did to my wine. I'll tell you a little bit about it when biodynamically, I guess you could say. People have their superstition ways of creating wine, and I had put mine in the cellar below what I had experienced June 2011 when I opened up a deli restaurant in an old Chinatown building that's sitting on top of a Native American grave site. That there was a massacre and a graveyard, and the town was built on the graveyard back when California was just started. And anyway, I was led there by a dream, and the dream was I was inside this old building, and I was following this guy outside and kind of like following in back of him, and I thought, well, this is an old saloon. And I stepped out the front door with him, and I saw a short looking Roman man with gray eyes, and he was standing with 3 taller blonde haired guys that had Dutch boy haircuts. People would call them Nordics, and they were taller than he, and he just looked at me, and I've seen him before in my dreams, so I knew the intensity of his look at me. I knew I had to pay attention, so I turned and looked at the building, and then the guy that I followed outside lit up a cigarette, and so I thought, okay, I'm standing outside of old saloon. It's a non-smoking saloon, and I heard some music playing inside, and he says, oh, I love the song Blue Hill Days, I'm gonna go inside. And so I followed him in, opened up the door and walked in. I saw this woman standing at this bar. She had a black dress on, black hair, and she turned and looked at me, and then I looked down. I looked at the wood floor, and I saw this wood chair sitting out on the wood floor. And then I woke up, and it was about 4 in the morning, and I wrote the song down. This was in June of 2006. That's when I had the dream, and I wrote the song Blue Hill Days, and I went to a recording studio August 2009, and I recorded it with lead guitarist of I can't remember right. Anyway, we recorded it, and then let me see, October, I saw the building for sale on LoopNet. It was a commercial LoopNet, and so me and my friend, we drove up there, and it was in Colusa. I was living in Sacramento, and I drove up there, and it was exactly like in my dream. And so I bought it just for that reason, knowing that I had to be there for a certain reason. And I bought it in February 2007. So I had a lot of strange experiences there, and people were saying the building was haunted. It's an old Chinatown, there was tunnels and opium dens and all these other stories that were going on, but I was finding a deeper story there about the history of California and the Masons, and the whole town is Masonic. Everything is a Masonic code with these beings from another dimension. Everything is about the Masons, and so that'll kind of let you know that anybody that is experiencing this other dimension, they're coming from that mindset, you know. So and they do live in stone. I've seen them, and it's kind of hard to explain, but they do look like a molecule chain but electrified, and so it's nothing that would make any kind of sense to anybody about what another entity or another dimension looks like, but it is not more powerful than the Creator, because they're not the Creator. The Creator is the Creator of all things, and we are in the creation. We are in the Creator. So anyway, I opened up a deli not really knowing what I was supposed to do with this building. I opened it up in 2010, and well, no, I opened up in 2011, and it only stayed open for 6 weeks. And one afternoon, about 3:30 in the afternoon, it was closed. I just opened it up for lunchtime. It was a little crepe deli, and I was de-stemming spinach, and I saw that the front window area in the dining room was blocked out, like no light coming in, and something was in my peripheral vision. So I turned and looked, and it was this 7 to 8 foot tall shape of a shadow figure. It had head and shoulders and then went straight down, but I saw like magnetic lines flowing up it like a river, like a deep river. And so as I walked a little closer and I stood there in front of it about 15 feet away, it just stood there, and I didn't feel anything. I just was watching this magnetic lines flowing up from the bottom going up to the head, and it looked like it had an aurora around it that was like a magnified convex lens, that through the convex I saw everything that bent like a 45-degree angle into it, like it was sucking everything in around it. So like it kind of bent all the light in towards it. So I saw the window frame behind it, it was bent in at a 45-degree angle into its head. And I seen those on what they call the Holy Ghost relief wall in Utah. These old ancient Indians had drew pictures of those beings that looked like a shadow figure with a head and then shoulders, and that's what it had. And then it moved towards me and it dissipated into many layers of fog, but with a light behind it. So I closed up that day and then went home, and I tried telling people about things that I've seen, but nobody listens to me. So shortly after that, my dog got cancer, and she was 10 years old at that time. So I closed it down and took a job that would pay for her surgery, which was around $15,000. And in the meantime, the following year, 2012, I bought some grapes from a backyard farmer in Russian River Valley over in Santa Rosa, and I made some Zinfandel and Petite Sirah, and I stored it in the cellar and fermented it under where I saw this entity, because I thought it was a vortex, because all kinds of things were happening in the building. So I thought it was some kind of energetic vortex, the reason why I was there. And so I was just learning things as you know, every day, every moment that was going on. And so anyway, over a period of time, let me see, it fermented, and it was all natural. I didn't do anything. I didn't put anything in it. I did it the natural way, just like the owner. He grew the grapes organically, didn't put any pesticides or anything on it, just hand-picked everything. And so I talked to him a little bit about this natural way of fermenting, and it turned out okay, except I thought I was going to lose the Zinfandel. It turned brown on me after my first racking, because I had injured my back. I took a job as a chauffeur, and I had injured my back picking up a suitcase, and actually I ruptured 3 discs down from L3 to L5, and so I messed up when I was racking, and that was like in November 2012 or December, but it went natural all the way until when I bottled it. And but I thought I lost the carboy of Zinfandel that browned on me, but I put some Blue Lotus in it, and when I bottled it all, I thought, well, at least it'll be vinegar. But it came back, and I wanted to show you that Blue Lotus has a preservative in it. And again, this is my Zinfandel right here, and I'll just show you the color of it. That's bottled in 2013. So I know I don't have to put a lot of it out there, but that's the Zinfandel, and this is the cork that came out of that bottle, and there's the Blue Lotus diamonds on it right there. You can see them. And I did another video on number 2 to show that I did a side-by-side with another bottle of wine from another homemaker that did his modern winemaking technique. I'm trying to get this in focus so you can see the crystals on this. It's not coming into focus, but it has a lot of tartaric acid on it, and it's very thick. So what I had found in this organic compounds, this Blue Lotus has this organic compound in it. This is the report. It's online, and this talks about the symmetrical unit of this compound right here. This is what is the Blue Lotus diamonds. So it's in the middle of the flower. The diamonds are like the inner part of the flower. And what it has done is it creates a atom like that, or molecule. And I'll read the comment. It says, chalcone is a unique template that is associated with several biological activities. The radical quenching properties of the phenyl groups present in many chalcones have raised interest in using the compound or chalcone-rich plant extracts as drug or food preservatives. Chalcone constitutes an important group of natural product and serve as precursors for the synthesis of different classes of flavonoids, which are common substances in plants. So here's the chain molecule. There's one chain, and it's connected to the other, and it's called an infinite chain here. From what they said, it's a hydrogen bonds into infinite polymetric chains. So this is why my wine, this is the chain, so they just chained themselves together, and it kept picking up the, I guess, the browning of my wine, the SO2. It was picking it up as a hydrogen element or bond. I'm not a chemist, I just had high school chemistry, and but I do believe that the Blue Lotus, inadvertently or vertently, through the ones that were what they called, that were in touch with me and still are daily, they said that they're the pyramid builders. So these are ancients that had lived here long ago, and I could go on and tell you more stories. I do have a lot of videos, but when I introduced this wine to a group of 25 people after I had a intense extraterrestrial contact with what they would call, if you look up Skinny Bob with the KGB old 1950 videos, it looked like that, but it's brown, and he was on the other side of my garden fence looking through the fence at me, and my dog's the one that alerted me to it, and she wouldn't go outside after it, but I did, because he moved sideways through the bushes, and I went outside the front door to look for him, and he's gone. But they came that evening, and anyway, I turned the information over to Mutual UFO Network, March 14th, 2000, and let me see, 13, yeah. And I had visitations from that point on in the conscious realm, and I still am. every day, and it's just getting more and more aggressive in the way that these people, they look like people, but they're not. They're a different life form. They're not human, and they awoken me, I suppose, so that I could tell you. But P.K. Dick, the writer of Valis and Blade Runner in the 70s, he's on YouTube confessing to a group of media that he's like talking to himself, because he believes he's the only one here in this realm, that everything else is an illusion. So it is quite extensive when you do have ET contact. It isn't anything that I have ever experienced before that I was aware of, other than my grandfather being a draftsman for Lockheed Skunk Works, and when I had seen some UFOs was when I was a bus driver for the military and was coming out of Barstow, and I saw a black saucer, and it was flying right in front of the bus, and everybody on the bus was asleep except I saw it. And then it came and visited me at my building in Colusa, and then I saw all the other entities that came out of it, and I have them on video from my front doorbell video. So anyway, I thought it would be interesting to make this wine on this spot that I seen this entity in my building in Chinatown, in Colusa. And so it did several things. It clarified the wine, this Blue Lotus, as a preservative, and I intentionally said that when I bottled this wine that it was to give the people, or whoever drank it, wisdom of the universe. So after I had this experience with this ET on March 14th and 15th and reported to Mutual UFO Network, a assistant state director in San Francisco contacted me, and we talked over the phone. She said I did have a real experience that is, I guess, normal for others, and that they wanted to get me in touch with this hypnotherapist and do a regression, and I did, and more things came out. And so then they invited me to come to the Sutter Buttes. There was a sky watch on June 21st, 2013, the supermoon sky watch, and I brung some of my wine for everybody to have a wine tasting to see what they thought of it. And you know, it was only 9 months in the cellar at that time, so it still had a lot of fruity flavor to it, and it was good, but the alcohol content and everything just seemed really smooth. And although everybody got buzzed over just a little small drink of it, and we saw over 40 UFOs. These two people came with video cameras and these lasers and everything, and were watching all these flashing UFOs, and they had their satellite screen up, and a big screen. They had it hooked up to a big screen, so they got some close-ups of these UFOs that were flashers and everything. And their satellite screen only showed one satellite that went across, but you couldn't even see it, you know, but everything else wasn't on satellite. So now recently I went back and tried to get Mutual UFO Network and even the hypnotherapist to come forward and, you know, explain these things that have happened, because nobody knows it, and I'm telling stories and nobody seems to listen to me about these things. And they said that they were all satellites. That's what Mutual UFO Network Assistant State Director said now. And so and the hypnotherapist wouldn't write a letter to correspond what happened to me, and what happened at the hypnotherapy session. According to my experience on March 14th, when I was abducted and I was floating up out of a white room with two gray beds that were like side by side at an angle from each other, and they said enlightenment. And when I opened up my eyes, that's when I saw outside my bedroom window a small arc light. It looked like an arc light that was irregular shaped, and it was moving, kind of rolling, and I thought it was a security guard, maybe with a flashlight or something outside the window, and it wasn't shining in, but I just could see it. And then I saw the shadow of the tree, and because the arc light was on the other side of the tree, so I saw the tree leaves and branches, and it was moving slowly, because on the curtain, the light scrim, or the curtain is very light, I could see the tree leaves moving, and then another one popped up, and then another one, and another one. They started just popping like popcorn, just pop, 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 and more and more and more and more of these little orb lights that were like an arc light. And then a massive one exploded into like a 5-foot diameter orb, and it was pulsating behind it. All these orbs were flying out of it like bees, and they started circulating around the orb, going in a counterclockwise. And I think at that time I was sitting up at the bed looking out at what was happening, and another one exploded, and more of those orbs started flying around in a mass, like a beehive or something of them. And then another one exploded, so there was like 3 orbs that were strobing, and all these, they were pumping out all these orbs that were probably about that big around. I guess that would be like $1. And it was intense arc light, but that wouldn't cast any light anywhere other than into itself. And so then they swirled together into 2 balls that were about the size of a volleyball, and they shot off to the west, and all these little orbs were falling behind it like a meteor. And this all happened right outside my bedroom window at 4 in the morning. And it took up a space of about 11 feet by 10 feet square area. And then in the morning, that's when I went out to my living room, and I saw this ET that was in the bushes looking at me. And then I could go on, but it is on Mutual UFO Network site. I still think it is, I'm not sure, but that's the story about the reason why I made the wine, was I guess now to share it, because I really didn't share the whole story or the wine. It's been sitting in the cellar all this time. I did just recently enter it into a contest, which is called the Bottle Shock Open in Lodi, California, in 2016. And anyway, that's a background of what I had found on Blue Lotus, the preserving chemical of it, and some of the biodynamics of it. And that's all. That's my Blue Lotus red wine.